Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all, wherever you are. Welcome. I am Jackie. You know, it's Sunday morning and it's so cold outside. I think it's 15 degrees, 20 degrees or something. But I started my morning sitting in the sun, looking out the window, and I was just thinking how life was so much simpler and easier and happier when I was a child. And it brought me to thinking about how carefree and fearless we were as children. And I thought we were fearless. We were willing and able to explore ourselves, our gifts, our abilities, our world, the world that we lived in. And without fear, we were quite fearless. And I was just reflecting back on those times when I didn't have much fear and how things have changed, how that little girl became very fearful. And how did that happen? Over time, you know, others put boundaries on me, on us. And I can understand as a parent that you don't want your child to get hurt. So you have to set some boundaries. And then I thought about the other boundaries that was not healthy because they were based out of fear. Boundaries that hindered my mentality, boundaries that hindered my emotional stability, boundaries that also stopped me physically and spiritually. You know, when I think of mentally, I think of someone saying that I can and cannot do something, that I'm not able to because maybe I just don't have the intelligence to do so. Physically, I've seen and heard adults telling the children, you can't be a basketball player, you're not even tall enough. Emotionally, don't cry, or else I'll give you something to cry about. Or boys, don't cry. That makes you a wimp, that makes you a punk. Or spiritually, as a child, you're just sensitive to things, you know things. And someone could easily tell you, you didn't see that, you didn't hear that. How could you possibly know that? That's not possible. These are boundaries, unhealthy boundaries. And these boundaries limit us as children and restrict us from exploring ourselves, our world, our gifts, our abilities. And with that, it is just compiled by more boundaries, whether if it's through family, friends, peers, the school system, the community, the church. And they place all these fears in us, telling us what is possible, what isn't possible, what we can and cannot do. And oftentimes we fall into this web of fears that others have weaved for us. And we become less fearless, but more fearful. Fearful that we don't want to disappoint someone, or we don't want the disapproval of someone or group. So we begin to conform to society's ways, and we hold on to the fears, and we become less fearless. And what I also noticed is that as a child, we didn't have much. We didn't have many material things, but we were happier. And as adults, we have all of these material things, but not happy. And we find ourselves in this trap as adults where we've taken on the fears of society, the ways of society to get a job. And a lot of us have worked at jobs that we didn't even like and that wasn't satisfying, but we was just there for the paycheck to get the money to pay for the material things, the rent, the car note, the insurance, material things, the bills. And that could often lead to depression because life is not enjoyable. We're not genuinely happy or content. We feel limited and restricted, and we're fearful of losing the job because that means that we will lose, possibly lose our home, our car, all the material things. But it's the same stuff that stresses us. It will actually stress us out. It's the same things that stresses us out. And it's like, and that's because we've oftentimes have accepted these boundaries and these fears of society, saying this is the way life is supposed to be lived. These are the things you should do and shouldn't do, and this is the life that you should be um, trying to attain. But it just strips us of our joy, our childlike joy, and it replaces that with fear. And as adults, we don't take many risks. We take very calculated risks. But even with those risks, it's very limited and restrictive. And I started to think about, you know, as a child, how I remember coloring, how a child will have a coloring book and they would color outside the lines. They wouldn't necessarily stay in the line. They wasn't concerned with the lines. They weren't. They were not concerned about the lines. They just wanted to color. They just wanted to explore. They just wanted to just be, to do themselves, just to do them. And then an adult would tell them, you need to color inside the lines, that this is the right way to do it. This is the correct way. This is the proper way. This is the way that it should be done. And then the child, like I did, I felt a little bit of anxiety trying to stay within the lines when I would color because I've been told this is the way to do it. To me, it didn't even matter if I colored outside the lines. I was just enjoying myself. And now I think about myself as an adult, all of us as adults. What are we going to color our future? Are we going to color, continue to color inside the lines? Or are we going to color outside the lines to go against the grain? And it's amazing how fear can truly paralyze us from doing what innately we were created to do, was to be fearless, to explore, to have joy, to be adventurous, to try and do new things. We went from being fearless as a child to being fearful as an adult, but now it's time to become fearless again. It's time to color outside the lines. Life is too short for us to be unhappy, sad, and depressed. And that's because we've been limited and restricted on every level, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, that we've forgotten about that little girl and that little boy that still lives inside of us, who wants to color outside the lines. So, my question is to you: are you ready to color outside the lines? I am. Anyway, that's all I want to share. Hope you guys have a great day. Thank you, thank you, thank you for stopping by. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Bye.